Hello and welcome to 100 Seconds with Larry Weiss, founder of Linescale. We've included 5 short videos below to give you detail about Linescale and how it's used, but anytime, use the link below to schedule time with us. Larry, welcome. Could you tell us, how does Linescale help with merchandising and getting an existing product back on its revenue plan?
What we generally do, even before product ideation, is look at the existing line, what's working, what's not, where you're having issues, what the difference is between what customers expected you to do and what your product actually did for them in great detail. Medallia and some of the others do a great job on net promoter score and so forth, and prime immediate reasons that are affecting people. But there are many things that go on that you don't realize that contribute to it. And it pays to take a look in depth at your product, whether it's an app, a website, a physical product, or a service. What we do is we use your lists, or we go out to the world at large and find people who've used you most recently and evaluate you in a very similar competitive context to which we use for new product development. That is, what are the alternatives? What would you have done instead of this, and so forth. Then we find out what they expected of you, and then how you performed, where you either exceeded expectation, met it, or fell short. And once finding that out, and a few other things about your product, we can then go with each individual in great depth to find out what, by particular action, what they expected or wanted to do. And once we, or tried to do, or did, and then take those each individual items and compare those with their expectation for it. So we can tell you both who are you satisfying or not satisfying versus their expectation for you in a competitive context, and then do a very fine dissection of what is contributing to that. We can then evaluate that, of course, by creating a remedy situation and testing that as a new concept. How do we either reposition or fix your product if, in fact, you're falling short of what you originally intended to do? And we would work with your product prototypers and your product developers for this in the same manner to establish whether or not the fixes or the changes are working against customer expectation. Again, the key is the customer's expectations are different from ours. And it's very important to find out what the expectations are in a competitive context so that the evaluation can be crisp, definitive, and also serve as a benchmark, a criterion to evaluate performance on this very specific activities. Any new product development operation is a disruption of the organization. And there's a natural opposition or resistance to it. And a good system acknowledges this and works with this instead of against it. And that's what Linescale is built to do, to keep people from pointing fingers at each other and point them at the concept that they're trying to build and the executional element of the concept that that department is currently working on. Very often people have very good ideas in the development process that may be at odds with what the fundamental concept is. So we always use the concept as our flagship, our benchmark, against which we evaluate and always point our efforts against, whether it's advertising, product, packaging, in-store promotion, print ads, whatever it is we're doing. Always evaluate that with the expectation of the concept, what it is we're trying to build. That way, instead of pointing the fingers at each other, we can point at the consumer and say, aha, I see what we need to do here to make this work even better.
So through Linescale, I find out that something's gone wrong in the commercialization or the merchandising of the idea.
This occasionally happens in a pilot market, which is the best place to find out if you haven't already found it out during development. But you do this by using that process I was speaking of for evaluation of a product that it doesn't seem to be working. We just accelerate that and do that in a pilot test to find where did this fall short of expectation. And you can be very surprised sometimes to find it out. It may be it's just you're out of stock. There are all kinds of things that affect performance of the product, or people are looking in the wrong place, or the package just was off, or the package didn't work, or that easy open package cut my thumb. So there are a lot of things that can happen. And sometimes very small things multiply themselves. That is, every purchase cycle, you lose some people, but you aren't gaining fresh ones. So we can find that out very quickly, early in the cycle, ideally before you implement, but typically you will have worked out most of those, and something in the execution or delivery process can be causing the shortfall. Let's find it out quickly while you're still fundamentally in prototype.
Larry, many thanks. There are short videos on using Linescale for marketing and ideation, for achieving product market fit, for growing loyalty programs, and for meeting financial plans. Scroll down and click on any of the videos below for another 100 seconds with Larry, or use the link below to schedule a demonstration. Thanks for joining another 100 seconds with Larry Weiss, founder of Linescale.